It's Monday morning again, and this is week number 6. And there's Rich up there on the lift, getting ready to do some more clouds, and he has been going crazy making progress. See, this is a new experience for me, showing up each Monday. I work Monday through Wednesday, but he keeps working during the end of the week and makes all this progress while I'm gone, and then I come in and I see all this mural painted. He added in all those clouds above those mountains and put a bunch of details in there. We got this big mountain that I thought was just awesome. And so I need to take a lesson from the way he gets these things done. Here, my head's in the way. He slams out these scenes so fast by just mapping out where the light and the shadow is ahead of time. He's a very good planner, much more organized than myself. This elephant just to the right of that big one he added in, and he added another bird, and he put this big gnarly stump in there he added to that guy. We've covered all these walls. We've got our Africa scene, and we've got our I don't know what you call that scene over there. Then it comes over here, and we have Alaska that Rich is working on. I'm gonna walk over here, and we're gonna see just what his technique is on these trees. We're gonna do a quick tutorial on how to get these three-dimensional looking pine trees.
I'm using black and primary blue and burnt sienna. And the reason I'm using those colors is the black gives me the darkness I need. The blue gives me just a little bit of ambient light from the atmosphere. And the brown gives me just a hint of some of the dead timber that's usually in some of these pines, the dead needles. So it just gives you a little subtle hint of that. Every now and again I'll also dunk in some green, just to give me that deep, dark pine color. And because I dip in each one and then go to the wall, color hits on different parts of my brush, and then I get a spontaneous look when I put it on the wall, where some will have a little more brown, some will have a little more blue, and that's a nice background layer of the shadow area. I'm going to do 3 different layers: the shadow tones, the midtones, and then the highlights. And what I'm simulating here is the shape of the branches and needles. This particular tree is a black spruce. So its needles and branches face downward.
We've got a power saw running outside. That's what that racket is.
I'll also flip back and forth on both sides of my brush. Make sure I get a saturation of paint. I always start with my darkest shadow layer first, then I go with a mid-tone, which is basically whatever color that object is, the mid-range color of it. And I put that on when my shadow is almost dry or dry, because I don't want it to mix too much with the shadow, because then it'll muddy up my color just a little bit. But in some spots, like right here, I want it to muddy just slightly, so I get a little darker green, and then I can come in with a highlight next to it. And then from far away, that looks like maybe slightly rounded edge. And then I'll go in with my highlight, maybe when the midtone is a little wet, and that way I'll get even like a 4th tone in there between the midtone and the highlight. That is kind of nice. I want to show that light is shining through parts of the tree that aren't heavy with branches, and light gets filtered through. So to simulate that, I'll just take a little bit of yellow and just a little bit of white, even on that green brush, and I'll just give a little stroke straight down the middle of it, just to give me a highlight. And if the brush splays a little bit, that's even better, because it gives you the look of bark.
Nice.
Then when I go back over with my highlights and midtones, in that area. That's going to look like an open area of the tree that light is filtering through. Sometimes you're mixing your color and you think, oh, this is perfect, but then you get it on the wall, not remembering it dries darker, and then it's maybe slightly too dark. So that's a good thing to be mindful of. I want it to look like the branches aren't just coming to the side, but they're coming out too. So that's when I give this kind of back and forth upside down V look. Makes it look like some of the branches are coming towards you.
Ah, okay, cool.
Furthering the 3D effect.
Yeah.
This black dot right here, I'm gonna keep, even though it seems insignificant. It's gonna appear like a shadow on the trunk from far away from these needles, casting a shadow onto that trunk. Ready for highlights. That's a little bit of a mix. It's mostly yellow, maybe 80% yellow, a little bit of green, and just a little bit of white.
I'm gonna get a shot of that palette that you're dipping off of there.
By carefully placing your highlights, it will give it a 3D effect. I think an uncareful way would be to overdo your highlights.
Okay, I've done that.
Then you just pretty much cover up all your midtones and you lose your depth, your 3D look.
Yeah, I've definitely done so much highlights that it's not highlights anymore.
Yeah.
It becomes
It becomes one midtone or one highlight. And then I'm actually even putting a little bit of brown in there as well.
Okay, cool. And is that because we're working off of that real sunset light source? Sunset colored light source over there?
A little bit of that subtle hue to come through. Even though it appears to be just light yellow, it's actually got 4 colors in it. And as you go, you know, your tree starts coming to life before your eyes, and you see as you move down the trunk where you want more highlight and where you don't. The areas where I have bigger highlight looks like a bigger clump of needles is right there, which is good because trees aren't symmetrical the whole way down. They have clumpy areas and thinning areas. You want to stay organic. Your eye starts to see receding areas and areas that are protruding because of the highlight. And then once you start visualizing the shape of your tree, it makes it easier to know, hey, this is a spot where a highlight would look really good, or this is a spot where I should just leave alone and let it recede. It's just knowing when to do that is the hard part. Totally by feel. And that comes from, I mean, when you're doing a mural, you're so up on it and you can lose perspective on it. So it's good to lean back sometimes, get down off your ladder, go walk away, look at it. And that's what I'll do after I throw in these first sets of highlights. I'll look at it from far away and see where maybe I need to add some more. Or if I want to take away, then I'll come back when it's dry and hit a midtone back over it.
Oh, okay. So you'll actually go back and adjust your, redo your midtones, shadows.
Yeah, like this part I just put in here, I thought, hey, this would look good, like some needles are crossing over and coming out this way. So just by going boop, boop, that gave me that look. And as you can see, my green is still wet. So if I want it to be pure highlight, I'll just do a dab and leave it alone. But if I want it to blend in, then I'll labor it a little bit. And touch is important too of how hard you press. If I'm pressing lightly, then I can keep some of the green below and mix it into the midtone. Even some of my brown was in there, so that's kind of nice, having that brown right below that mark I just put.
Yeah, that does look cool.
You could pretty much start wherever. I guess I'm just a little OCD that way, where I just like to stay very organized in my methods.
I noticed.
This is wet on wet here, and it's given me a nice little effect just with a few strokes because it's picking up some of that midtone.
Yeah.
See right there. You're seeing that I'm staying on the top parts of my midtone because that's where the light would hit. What I will do is at the end of every day I take a picture of what I painted, and then I'll take it home and I'll look at it. For example, with this scene, Joe and I both worked on this together, and we got the background in place, and then I took a picture of it, then I took it home knowing I was going to put trees in it, and then in Photoshop I created some trees real quick, and then I duplicated them, I cut and pasted them and placed them all around in a sequence where it was pleasing to the eye. And that way, for me, I worked out all the bugs of where I wanted to place the trees. So the next day when I got in, I just referred to what I put together in Photoshop and put my trees where I thought they would look nice. Now, Joe's really good at just winging it on site and placing things where he wants, and the thing coming to life in his mind. And then it's like it's its own organism. It comes to life as he's working. So he's really good at that. For me, I like to do it in the computer before I get here. That way I know, hey, this won't look good here, this will look good here. And then I've worked out all the bugs, and it saves me so much time. Because on these big projects, you are on a time restraint. You only have so many days to finish. And then there's other people in the construction sequence who need to get in and do their job.
Yeah. I could learn a lesson from Rich about that, because just because I like to put it together in my mind doesn't mean that my best work always comes out. I find myself wanting to redo things. So just because you can doesn't mean you should. This is a really good bit of professional wisdom here on being time efficient and doing all your troubleshooting on a small scale.
Yeah, and every person will figure out what works best for them. Joe and I still get to the same goal of a nice looking mural that meets the client's needs. That's the most important thing.
My job is to put the rest of this mountain range in. So I've been working on this New Zealand portion. I did that already and blended that into our Africa scene. And so that's going to come over here and transition into like an Alaskan scene, you know, with a bunch of pine trees. And so we need another mountain range. And Rich already has it mapped out. So instead of my usual blending, you know, I really love getting the details just right. I love the process of creating, but that can be very time consuming. And I need to take a lesson from Rich that this job doesn't call for tiny details when everybody's going to be standing 15 feet away at the closest. You know, so he's very good at determining just how much detail is needed to get our best look. So instead of blending all of the small details as I go, like I always like to do, I'm going to do it color by color. I'm just going to do one layer of color for the shadow, then go across the whole picture again, a layer of color for the highlight. Forget about the wet on wet blending as I go in the smaller details. I'm going to try getting it done fast like he does. Well, it's the end of the day, and it's my last day. Rich is going to be in charge of finishing this from here on out.
Super awesome experience working with Joe on this huge scale project, and I hope we can do it again.
It was fun showing up each Monday and seeing all this progress. I just came in one day, that big mountain was painted, and this scene over here, all this is Rich's work. It was cool. Normally I show up and it's right where I left off. So this was fun working with such a great artist, you know. So I'm out of here. Sad to go. I have a feeling I might be back just a little.